Marriage Story, Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson, cheese reel. Let's get into the review. So Marriage Story just became available on Netflix. I watched it at home on my couch in a nice cozy blanket. I'm actually for movies on Netflix. I don't really care necessarily if they're not shown in theaters. Marriage Story was shown in limited theaters, but I was like, you know what? It's intended for Netflix. I want to watch it as it's intended. Marriage Story was directed and written by Noah Baumbach and stars Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson as a couple who are going through a divorce. The movie follows them getting their own lawyers, going to court, and battling over custody of their son. I think the best thing about Marriage Story was the performances. Adam Driver was absolutely amazing. He plays Charlie in the film, the dad who is getting divorced, and he just does a fantastic job. There's a lot of scenes where he's crying, where he's arguing with Scarlett Johansson, and he just plays a very, very likable character. You really feel for Charlie in the film because he's just such a great guy and a great dad to his son, but he also comes off as a jerk a lot of the time because he works a lot and he mistreats his wife. Sometimes he doesn't listen to her and he puts down her ideas, and I think Adam Driver does a terrific job of showing those two sides of a person. The loving side, the side where he's a dad, but also the other side where he's just a bad husband. Scarlett Johansson also does a terrific job in the movie. She plays a similar role to Adam Driver where she's just kind of crying a lot, arguing a lot, but she does a terrific job. There's one scene where she has a ton of dialogue and it's done in one take, and she cries throughout the scene. She's walking around the room, she's doing different things, and I think she absolutely did amazing. Dern is also in the film. She plays the lawyer of Scarlett Johansson's character, and she does a terrific job of just being really, really mean. I hated her character, absolutely hated her. But she does a terrific job of playing that character, so you actually do hate her. Alda is also in the film. He's like 83 years old, but he plays a really funny character. He plays a lawyer in the film who's not very good at his job, and he says a lot of funny lines. I loved his role. The film just has great dialogue. You can tell that Noah Baumbach really had strong connections to what he was writing. I think in real life he went through his own divorce, and he said he knew a lot of people that were divorced, so he really wrote those stories down and all those feelings that he had about the subject into his screenplay. The cinematography is fine. It's not too flashy. It does its job. But the real good thing about this film is the score, which was done by Randy Newman. Randy Newman has composed for a ton of films. Probably my favorite score of his are from the Toy Story movies. And the score for this film felt a lot like his other works, especially in Toy Story. It's very delightful, which is in contrast to the very, very serious subject in the film, but I think it works really well. It's probably the best film I've ever seen portray divorce in a way that I've never really seen before. I can really feel the ugliness and the heartache that comes with that, and the performances just fully delivered on what it had to offer. I give Marriage Story a 4 out of 5. So we're going to go into spoiler territory a little bit, so if you want to skip over that, go to this timestamp in the video. So I hate to bring this up, but because divorce does have two sides to a story, I want to know, which side were you on? Like I said before, Charlie is a really nice guy. He's a nice dad, but I think the main big thing that he messed up on was he cheated on his wife. His excuse in the film is that him and his wife didn't have sex for a year, but I mean, they were still together, so that's still considered cheating. There's no way around that. On the other hand, you got Nicole, who's a great mother and also a very, very nice person, but I think the problem with her is she made a mistake in choosing a life living with Charlie. She fully devoted herself to being around Charlie, being in New York City, living with him, and the fact that she wants to go to Los Angeles with her son and kind of abandon the life that she had without really bringing it up to Charlie in a way that he understood, I think was her main problem. I think the problem is she did a lot of things for herself that were subtle, and Charlie really didn't notice that, so they would just continue living on this life, and then when it got really serious, they realized they were living two different lives, and eventually that drove them apart. And then they had different aspirations for their son, and how he should be raised, and where he should live, and ultimately I think that's what tore them apart. I think the film sides with Charlie a little bit more. We get to see his character a lot more. We get to see the feelings that he feels because of this divorce. We see him cry more. We see him traveling back and forth from New York City to Los Angeles. We see him really trying to do an effort to be a part of his son's life and try to get through this divorce. And even though I loved his character, ultimately I'd have to say Nicole is in the right in this one. She was neglected by him. He did not listen to her as much as he could have, and ultimately that's what drove them apart. and she was not living the life she wanted to live, and he was really holding her back when he should have been trying to help her in any way he could. He was helping in his own way, but ultimately I think he was not listening to her the way that he should have. My favorite scene of the film is the big argument scene, the one in Charlie's new apartment where Nicole comes over to talk about custody of their son. Their conversation pretty much escalates to a shouting match at each other. Charlie punches a wall and then gets in Nicole's face and says he wants her to die. And you could just really feel the raw emotion of the scene. It was really, really real. Charlie pretty much has a mental breakdown, and this is probably one of the first times I've ever seen a real mental breakdown on film before. He does it very, very well. And let me just say, I hated Laura Dern's character. Every time she was on screen, it just made me so mad. I did not like her character, but she did a fantastic job of portraying that. So now let's talk about some of the awards that Marriage Story might get nominated for this year. I think the film at least has 6 categories locked into place. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Adam Driver, Best Actress for Scarlett Johansson, Best Supporting Actress for Laura Dern, and then Best Original Screenplay for Noah Baumbach. I think it should probably get Best Original Score for Randy Newman, and the editing was pretty good. It was nothing flashy or anything. I think there's a good chance it could get Best Film Editing. As far as categories it can win, definitely Best Actor for Adam Driver. I think he's gonna win this year. I know Joaquin Phoenix in Joker was really, really good, but I think Adam Driver delivers a much more realistic performance and a much more heartfelt performance. Also, I think Laura Dern is going to win Best Supporting Actress. She has one of the best supporting performances of the year, and in the film she's just really, really good. I think the film should win Best Original Screenplay. I don't know if it will, but ultimately I think the film could probably get at least 2 wins for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actress. And that is the end of my review for Marriage Story. The film is on Netflix. Go check it out. It's really good. It's a really serious film. Kind of hard to stomach some of the time. It makes you feel really bad. But I think ultimately you can learn a lot about divorce and love and getting to know your partner and what you can appreciate from them. If you liked the review, subscribe. There's more reviews coming. If you want to see what other films I'm watching, follow me on Letterboxd at Ian's Cheese. Thank you for watching Cheese Reel, and I'll see you in the next film review.